Hello, miladies of inestimable value. Wine is bottled sunlight, waiting for the right moment to set the soul on fire. The fascinating thing about wine is that it doesn't reveal its power instantly. It waits, it matures, and then it transforms everything it touches. Science even proves that the same grape harvested in a different soil creates an entirely different flavor profile. That's not just wine, that's the Sigma female effect. She's not here to be gulped down like cheap champagne at a wedding afterthought. She's the vintage bottle that sits in the cellar, commanding patience, commanding respect, and quietly reminding the world that some things only get better the longer they're left undisturbed. And just like wine, she carries a mystery that's intoxicating, a strength hidden in silence, and yes, a bite sharp enough to remind you she's not for everyone's taste. Think of her as the kind of presence that makes you wonder if you should sip slowly, or if you're already drunk on her energy without even realizing it. Number 1. The aftertaste legacy. The aftertaste of a Sigma female is something most people underestimate until it hits them. She doesn't just walk through a room and leave a memory, she leaves a lingering presence that refuses to be ignored. Her words, her energy, her choices, they echo long after she's gone. Even when she's not physically there, the impact of her presence hangs in the air like a strong wine that you can't stop tasting. It's subtle at first, maybe just a thought or a feeling, but then it grows, weaving into conversations, memories, and decisions, influencing the world around her in ways people often don't consciously recognize. She understands that her actions have weight. Every gesture, every word, every moment of quiet observation is carefully measured because she knows it will resonate beyond the moment. She doesn't need to shout or demand attention. Her influence seeps in quietly, like the richness of a rare vintage, and those who experience it feel it in small, unavoidable ways. People may try to dismiss it, move on, or act unaffected, but the truth is the aftertaste lingers. It's in the subtle shifts in how people think, how they approach situations, and how they measure themselves. She leaves lessons, impressions, and challenges behind, not as a deliberate strategy, but simply because her presence is full-bodied and layered. The remarkable thing is that she doesn't chase recognition or validation. The aftertaste exists whether anyone acknowledges it or not. Some will love it, some will struggle with it, and some will only notice it years later. That's the kind of influence that can't be forced, faked, or hurried. It's a natural consequence of someone who lives deliberately, refuses to dilute herself, and moves through life with integrity and precision. Her aftertaste isn't about nostalgia or sentimentality. It's about the mark she leaves on the mental and emotional landscape of those around her. It's the quiet power of someone who knows that presence is more than attention, and influence is more than noise. Like the finest wine, it lingers, shapes perception, and transforms the ordinary into something unforgettable. Even when she's gone from the immediate scene, the world is still tasting her, still feeling her, still carrying the subtle intensity of her essence in ways that demand respect. The Sigma female doesn't just exist, she endures, long after the sip is finished. Number 2. Bitterness as depth, not flaw. Bitterness is often misunderstood. Most people think it's something to avoid, something unpleasant, a flaw to be smoothed over. But for a Sigma female, bitterness is a signature of depth, not a mark of defect. Just like the subtle, lingering bitterness in a fine wine, her sharp edges, her intensity, and her refusal to conform are not mistakes. They are the very qualities that make her unforgettable. She doesn't chase approval, nor does she dilute her essence to fit into someone else's idea of sweetness. That refusal to conform, to compromise her complexity for comfort or social convenience, is what gives her presence weight, texture, and resonance. Her intensity isn't aggression, it's clarity. She feels deeply, sees sharply, and acts with precision, and yes, that can be jarring to those used to shallow, superficial interactions. People who can't handle the truth, the directness, or the depth may label her bitterness as a flaw. They might call her too much, harsh, or difficult. But those labels only reveal their own inability to process depth. Her sharpness acts as both armor and filter, protecting her from shallow energy while attracting those who are willing to meet her on her level. Bitterness carries wisdom. Every experience that left a mark, every betrayal, every boundary she enforced, every time she stood firm in a world that demanded compromise, adds layers to her character. That bitterness isn't something she cultivates out of spite. It's an accumulation of life, sharpened into discernment and authenticity. It teaches others who interact with her that she is not a surface to be skimmed over, but a presence to be respected, understood, and appreciated. The Sigma female's bitterness, like a complex vintage, lingers. It isn't meant to be washed away, nor should it be. It shapes the way people remember her, the way she influences the world, and the way she commands attention without needing to demand it. People may try to sweeten her, tame her, or dilute her essence, but that's impossible without destroying what makes her rare and compelling. Her bitterness is the core of her magnetism, the reason she's unforgettable, and the reason anyone who truly experiences her remembers the taste long after she's gone. In her depth there is power, presence, and permanence, the kind of richness that cannot be replicated or ignored. Number 3. The unbottled danger. The concept of the unbottled danger is central to understanding a Sigma female's power. Just like wine that isn't properly bottled loses its intensity, her energy, focus, and influence can dissipate if she doesn't hold herself with discipline. Every thought, every emotion, and every action carries weight, and if she allows these to spill into the wrong people, the wrong environments, or unnecessary drama, she dilutes the very essence that makes her rare and formidable. A Sigma female knows that her presence is not something to be wasted. It is a resource, a force, and a tool that demands careful management. Self-containment doesn't mean restriction or suppression. It means knowing where to pour her energy, when to act, and when to remain silent. The wrong release can attract chaos, unnecessary conflict, or even resentment. She understands that people often take without giving, and situations often demand more than they deserve. By containerizing herself, she preserves her vitality and maintains the ability to act with precision and impact. Discipline becomes her armor, ensuring that every interaction she chooses is intentional, deliberate, and maximally effective. The unbottled danger also manifests internally. Without containment, her mind can wander into distractions, overthinking, or unnecessary emotional exhaustion. A Sigma female avoids this by creating boundaries within her own psyche, reserving mental and emotional space for things that matter while filtering out everything else. She is deliberate about where her attention flows because she knows that once energy is spent, it cannot be reclaimed. Unlike those who scatter themselves across meaningless tasks, people, or worries, she holds herself like a finely aged bottle, prepared to release her power only when it will have the most impact. This discipline of containment makes her magnetic. People are drawn to her because her energy feels controlled yet abundant, rare yet potent. She never overshares, overcommits, or leaks her power to those who can't appreciate it. Her restraint is not passivity, it is strategy, mastery, and strength. The Sigma female doesn't chase validation or try to please everyone. She understands that true influence comes from intentionality, from knowing when to release herself and when to remain sealed. In doing so, she becomes unforgettable, impactful, and enduring. A rare presence whose force is fully preserved, untarnished, and impossible to ignore. Number 4. The palate test. A Sigma female knows that her presence, energy, and intellect are like a rare vintage, complex, layered, and not meant for casual consumption. Just as a fine wine demands a refined palate to be fully appreciated, she understands that not everyone has the capacity to recognize or value her depth. This isn't arrogance, it's realism. She has spent years developing her mind, her character, and her boundaries, and she refuses to dilute herself for the sake of temporary approval or easy acceptance. People who lack the sophistication, awareness, or emotional intelligence to engage with her fully will simply not grasp the value she brings, and she has no patience for trying to educate them or change their perception. The Sigma female's refusal to waste herself on unrefined palates is a form of protection. Every ounce of her energy, attention, and emotion is valuable, and she knows that once it's expended in the wrong place, it cannot be reclaimed. She observes people carefully, identifying who can meet her on her level and who cannot. Those who cannot appreciate her subtlety, her strategic thinking, or her emotional depth are left at the periphery. She doesn't linger in their company, nor does she lower herself to be consumed by people who cannot handle her essence. This discernment ensures that she preserves her power and remains untouchable to those unworthy of her engagement. At the same time, she recognizes that this doesn't make her inaccessible. It makes her selective. The people who earn her attention, her trust, and her energy experience someone who is fully present, deeply engaged, and incomparable. To those with refined tastes, those who can truly understand her layers, she offers richness, depth, and loyalty that few others can. The impact she has on these people is profound because she chooses to give herself fully, without dilution or compromise. Accepting that not everyone will understand her allows the Sigma female to move through life with confidence and poise. She isn't concerned with mass approval or superficial admiration. She's concerned with meaningful connections and purposeful influence. The palate test is her internal filter, a self-imposed standard that separates the casual from the capable, the superficial from the sophisticated. By understanding who can truly appreciate her, she preserves her essence, maintains her independence, and ensures that her presence remains rare, powerful, and unforgettable. In a world of easily consumed mediocrity, she is a vintage that demands attention, patience, and respect. And she will never compromise for anyone less than capable of tasting her fully. Number 5. The mystery seal. A Sigma female understands the power of controlled revelation. Just like the cork of a fine wine conceals its essence until the perfect moment, she keeps the full measure of herself hidden, revealing only what is necessary when it matters. She doesn't rush to expose her thoughts, emotions, or ambitions to anyone who asks or demands them. Instead, she maintains a deliberate reserve, knowing that her depth and complexity are assets that must be revealed with precision. This isn't secrecy for the sake of mystery, it's strategy. Every part of herself she chooses to show is intentional, leaving the rest untouched and potent, waiting for the right circumstances to be unveiled. Controlled revelation is a form of self-preservation. In a world that often seeks to consume, judge, or exploit, the Sigma female knows that giving too much too soon risks diluting her presence. By maintaining her mystery seal, she ensures that her energy, insights, and true nature remain intact, accessible only to those who are deserving of her trust and attention. The people who encounter her rarely get the full picture immediately, and that is by design. She allows curiosity to linger, keeping others engaged, intrigued, and often in awe of the layers they sense but cannot fully grasp. This creates an aura of magnetism, a subtle pull that draws people in without ever forcing them. Her ability to control what is revealed and when also enhances her influence. When she chooses to share a thought, a feeling, or a strategy, it carries weight because it is rare, calculated, and significant. People listen, pay attention, and often remember those moments long after they occur. The Sigma female doesn't overwhelm with constant exposure. She conserves her presence so that each revelation lands with impact. This restraint makes her unforgettable, elevating her from someone who is simply present to someone whose presence resonates. At the same time, the mystery seal maintains the intrigue and respect that surrounds her. It prevents predictability, encourages engagement, and ensures that her complexity is recognized rather than overlooked. People are drawn not just to what she shows, but to the promise of what remains hidden. In mastering controlled revelation, the Sigma female protects her energy, enhances her influence, and commands attention without ever having to demand it. Like a rare vintage kept under cork, her true power is preserved, potent, and impossible to ignore, waiting for the precise moment when it will make the deepest impression. Number 6. The Decanter Mindset. The Decanter Mindset is a principle every Sigma female lives by, even if the world doesn't recognize it. Just as a fine wine needs to breathe before it can reveal its true character, she understands that silence and distance are not weaknesses, they are the preparation, the space in which her depth develops. Time alone allows her thoughts, strategies, and emotions to settle, mature, and refine themselves into something extraordinary. She doesn't rush to reveal herself to the world or to people who cannot appreciate her subtleties. Instead, she waits for the precise moment when the environment, the people, and the circumstances align perfectly, so that when she does act or speak, the full power of her presence is felt. This mindset is about patience and precision. In a world obsessed with immediacy, the Sigma female thrives in restraint. She doesn't feel compelled to fill silence with words or actions, because she knows that the quiet holds her energy and amplifies her eventual impact. Distance isn't a sign of aloofness. It's a tool that allows her to observe, analyze, and prepare. Every pause, every moment of stillness is an investment in herself and the outcomes she desires. When she finally engages, it's with a clarity and intensity that can't be replicated by those who rush or overshare. The Decanter Mindset also reflects a deep self-awareness. She recognizes that not every situation or person deserves her full attention or energy. By holding back, she ensures that when she does pour herself, it is meaningful, deliberate, and unforgettable. This controlled release keeps her from being drained by unnecessary drama, shallow interactions, or fleeting distractions. Ultimately, the Decanter Mindset is about honoring her own timing and value. It turns patience into power, restraint into magnetism, and observation into strategy. Like wine that has been carefully allowed to breathe, a Sigma female's presence, words, and actions carry layers, depth, and a richness that can only be appreciated when the timing is right. She doesn't rush, she doesn't force, and she doesn't settle, because she knows that the full flavor of her essence can only emerge when the moment unlocks it completely. In her silence and distance lies her strength, and in her timing lies her unforgettable power. Number 7. Aged out of society's timeline. The Sigma female doesn't measure herself by the arbitrary timeline society imposes. Just as wine improves with age only when stored under the right conditions, she understands that her growth, her brilliance, and her essence require careful preservation, not rushed conformity. Society will try to assign deadlines to her beauty, her achievements, or her relationships, but she refuses to play by those rules. She knows that true value and depth aren't tied to external schedules. They come from patience, self-care, and deliberate cultivation over time. Rejecting society's expiration dates doesn't mean she's complacent or stagnant. On the contrary, she invests in herself continuously, intellectually, emotionally, and physically, but always on her own terms. She doesn't chase trends, approval, or fleeting measures of success. She builds lasting substance that only becomes more refined as time passes. Every choice, every boundary, every effort she makes is intentional, preserving her energy and enhancing her value. Like a fine vintage stored correctly, her life gains complexity, richness, and character that can't be artificially manufactured. This independence from societal pressure grants her a sense of timelessness. While others may stress over missed opportunities or worry about being too old for certain milestones, she moves forward calmly, confident that her worth isn't tied to dates on a calendar. She ages deliberately, allowing her experiences to deepen her wisdom, her style, and her presence. Each year adds a layer of nuance and sophistication that can't be replicated by those rushing to meet external expectations. By aging on her own terms, the Sigma female becomes untouchable in ways that society struggles to understand. She embodies the idea that true beauty, success, and fulfillment are cultivated with intention, not forced by deadlines. She is preserved by her choices, not by conformity, and in doing so, she turns the concept of aging into an advantage. Time becomes her ally rather than her adversary, allowing her to mature into someone whose essence, like the finest wine, grows more potent, more intriguing, and more unforgettable with every passing year. Number 8. The fermentation of solitude. The Sigma female thrives in solitude because she understands that true growth often happens away from the spotlight. Just like wine ferments in darkness rather than sunlight, her most transformative work occurs in the quiet, hidden spaces of her life. To outsiders, her solitude may seem unremarkable, even lonely. But it is in this very isolation that her strength, clarity, and distinct essence are cultivated. She doesn't need constant validation, noise, or attention to develop her power. Her internal environment is enough to refine her into someone rare and formidable. Solitude allows her to observe the world without distraction, analyze situations without pressure, and strategize without interference. It gives her the time to process experiences, learn from mistakes, and sharpen her instincts. Each moment alone adds layers to her character. Much like the slow fermentation process deepens a wine's complexity. She emerges from periods of solitude not diminished but elevated, more aware, more controlled, and more magnetic. This process also strengthens her boundaries. Being comfortable alone teaches her self-sufficiency and resilience. She doesn't rely on external affirmation to define her worth, which makes her unpredictable and untouchable in social dynamics. Her silence and distance are intentional. They are part of the fermentation that preserves her energy and maximizes her impact when she finally engages with the world. The unglamorous nature of her solitude is a hidden power. While others may chase constant interaction and visible achievement, she understands that the quiet work, the unseen refinement, is what gives her the depth and flavor that others only recognize in fragments. She isn't performing for an audience. She is cultivating herself deliberately, allowing patience and introspection to shape her into someone unforgettable. In essence, the Sigma female solitude is not emptiness. It is alchemy. It is where the raw elements of her life are transformed into refined strength, precision, and clarity. Just as the finest wines gain their complexity in darkness, she gains hers in quiet reflection, emerging from solitude with a presence that is rich, layered, and impossible to ignore. Her fermentation in silence is the secret behind the full-bodied, unshakable force that defines her. Number 9. The cork defect. The Sigma female knows that even the finest potential can be ruined by a single toxic influence. Just as a bad cork can ruin an exceptional bottle of wine, one wrong person, one harmful environment, or one careless choice can contaminate years of her growth, effort, and clarity. She doesn't take this lightly. Every relationship, opportunity, and interaction is measured against her standards because she understands the cost of allowing negativity or manipulation to seep in. Her boundaries aren't arbitrary. They are precise, deliberate, and non-negotiable, acting as the seal that preserves her integrity, energy, and essence. For her, boundaries are not just rules, they are protection for the rare vintage of her life. She doesn't just block toxicity after it enters, she prevents it from ever reaching her core. This tight control ensures that her influence, decisions, and energy remain pure and effective, untainted by chaos or drama. People who are careless, selfish, or manipulative are kept at a distance, not out of arrogance, but out of self-preservation. She has learned that compromise in these areas doesn't lead to connection or growth. It leads to dilution of her power. The cork defect also teaches patience and discernment. She doesn't rush to open herself to every opportunity or person, understanding that some connections are too weak, too flawed, or too risky to allow inside. Like a wine cellar carefully curated to maintain the quality of every bottle, she curates her life, protecting her time, energy, and emotional bandwidth. This discipline makes her presence rare and respected. Ultimately, the Sigma female's tight boundaries and her awareness of the cork defect make her a force that cannot be easily shaken. She preserves her value, her strength, and her clarity by refusing to let contamination enter her life. Every decision, relationship, and action is measured to protect her essence, ensuring that when she does pour herself into the world, it is with the full depth, richness, and precision of someone untouchable and unforgettable. Her life, like a perfectly sealed wine, is preserved, potent, and impossible to compromise. Number 10. Selective pouring. The Sigma female understands that her energy is precious, finite, and far too valuable to be scattered recklessly. Just like a rare wine isn't chugged but poured carefully, she distributes her presence and attention with intention. She doesn't feel compelled to attend every event, respond to every message, or appease every person who demands her time. Instead, she chooses carefully where, when, and how she invests herself, ensuring that every interaction carries impact and meaning. Overextending herself socially would dilute her power and leave her drained, and she refuses to compromise the quality of her presence for the sake of quantity. This selective approach also amplifies her influence. When she chooses to engage, her presence is noticed, felt, and remembered. People sense that interacting with her is a privilege, not a given. Her energy doesn't flow into empty connections or superficial interactions. It is reserved for moments, people, and opportunities that align with her values, ambitions, and inner standards. By measuring her energy like a rare vintage, she guarantees that every ounce she gives carries weight and significance. Selective pouring is also an act of self-preservation. Constant overexposure can exhaust anyone, and the Sigma female knows that maintaining her equilibrium is essential to sustaining her power, clarity, and independence. She protects her mind and emotions by regulating how much of herself she reveals and to whom. In doing so, she avoids burnout, manipulation, and unnecessary emotional entanglements. The strategy of selective pouring turns her into someone unforgettable. Unlike those who are always available, and therefore taken for granted, her presence is rare, potent, and magnetic. People pay attention, value her contributions, and respect her boundaries because they recognize the care with which she invests herself. Ultimately, selective pouring is about intentionality, control, and respect for her own essence. It ensures that she remains in command of her life, her energy, and her relationships. Like a fine wine served in measured amounts, the Sigma female's engagement is always meaningful, always memorable, and always leaves those around her wanting more. Her power lies not in constant exposure, but in the precise, deliberate way she chooses to share herself with the world. Number 11. The vineyard truth. The Sigma female understands that not all opportunities, relationships, or ideas are worth her time, energy, or investment. Just as not every grape produces fine wine, not every person or situation will yield value or growth. She doesn't waste herself on mediocrity or force outcomes where the conditions aren't right. She evaluates carefully, observing the environment, the context, and the potential before committing herself, knowing that her energy is finite and her influence powerful. She measures people and situations as a vintner measures grapes, by their quality, consistency, and potential to flourish under her attention. The soil, representing the foundation of character or circumstances, the climate, the current environment or mindset, and the season, the timing of the connection or opportunity, all matter. If any of these factors are off, she walks away, recognizing that her involvement in a flawed process will only dilute her value. She doesn't chase or overcorrect. She selects, nurtures, and commits only when the conditions promise authenticity, growth, or meaningful results. This discernment extends to her personal and professional life. In relationships, she avoids draining dynamics that demand more than they give. In her career or projects, she ignores ventures that are built on shaky ground or empty promises. Even in casual interactions, she instinctively filters out those who cannot match her depth or energy. She doesn't do this to punish or isolate herself. She does it to preserve her essence, maintain her standards, and ensure that her contributions have maximum impact. The vineyard truth is also a lesson in patience and timing. She waits for the right moment and the right conditions to invest herself fully, knowing that forcing connections or rushing decisions only leads to disappointment and wasted energy. By accepting that not every grape is worth her attention, she ensures that her influence remains potent, her presence rare, and her life carefully curated. Ultimately, the Sigma female's ability to evaluate with precision and invest selectively is what sets her apart. She understands that quality always outweighs quantity, and that meaningful outcomes require the right foundation, environment, and timing. Like a master vintner, she produces results that are rich, complex, and unforgettable, not by chance but through careful selection and deliberate cultivation of what truly matters. Number 12. The sediment of memory. The Sigma female carries the sediment of memory with a kind of quiet power. Just as old wines leave residue at the bottom of the bottle, her life contains traces of past betrayals, mistakes, and lessons learned. These experiences are not burdens to be ignored or discarded. They are markers of growth, shaping her perception, instincts, and judgment. She doesn't pretend they don't exist, nor does she allow them to sour her entirely. Instead, she integrates them carefully, letting the residue refine her understanding of people, situations, and herself. Every lesson becomes a filter, every betrayal a measure of who and what deserves her energy. This sediment teaches discernment. She knows the cost of misjudgment and the value of authenticity, and she approaches new relationships, projects, and challenges with this accumulated wisdom. The residue isn't bitterness, it's clarity. It sharpens her taste for what is real, what is worthy, and what aligns with her standards. While others may see scars or mistakes as weaknesses, she understands that they are the foundation of resilience and strength. They add layers to her character that make her presence more impactful and her judgment more precise. At the same time, the Sigma female drinks carefully from the bottle of her experiences. She doesn't let the sediment cloud her present or poison her future, but she doesn't filter it out completely either. It remains part of her, a subtle complexity that informs her decisions without defining her entirely. This balance allows her to engage with the world fully, armed with insight, but free from the chains of past pain. The sediment of memory also acts as a safeguard. She recognizes patterns of behavior, manipulations, and toxic dynamics more quickly because she has tasted them before. It gives her an edge in relationships, business, and social navigation, allowing her to avoid pitfalls that others fall into repeatedly. In the end, the Sigma female's relationship with her past is one of mastery. She doesn't discard the bottle, she doesn't rush the pour, and she doesn't shy away from complexity. She drinks deliberately, allowing each experience, each residue, to refine her taste for authenticity, depth, and true value. Her life, layered and nuanced, is richer for it, and those who encounter her cannot help but recognize the rare, unshakable essence that emerges from the sediment. The Sigma female's power lies in her refusal to be labeled or boxed in. Just like a bottle without a label, she forces people to engage with her essence directly, rather than relying on preconceived notions, titles, or societal expectations. She doesn't define herself by roles, relationships, or superficial markers of identity. Her identity isn't a sticker to be read or a package to be judged. It's the substance inside, the depth of her mind, the precision of her actions, and the authenticity of her presence. People can try to categorize her, but those labels will always fall short because she is intentionally more complex than any box or category. Thriving unlabeled gives her a unique freedom. She isn't constrained by external pressures to behave a certain way, conform to expectations, or prove herself according to other people's metrics. This freedom allows her to pursue her own goals, explore her own passions, and engage with the world on her own terms. Her energy and focus are not diluted by the need to meet external definitions. They are concentrated entirely on what matters to her, making her presence rare and impactful. Being unlabeled also creates intrigue and respect. People are drawn to her precisely because she cannot be easily understood or predicted. There's a magnetism in the unknown, an allure that comes from someone who refuses to reveal everything at once, who exists beyond stereotypes and roles. Unlike those who allow their identity to be dictated by society or circumstance, she commands attention simply by being fully herself, unframed and unfiltered. At the core, the Sigma female's identity is her content, not her packaging. She invests in what she produces, the value she delivers, and the authenticity she embodies, rather than the image others project onto her. By thriving unlabeled, she protects her energy, maximizes her influence, and ensures that her impact is measured not by assumptions, but by substance. In a world obsessed with branding and surface-level judgments, her unlabeled power makes her unforgettable, rare, and entirely untouchable. If you enjoyed exploring the power, depth, and mystery of the Sigma female, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss content like this. Don't forget to like the video, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, and share it with anyone who needs to understand the rare energy of a Sigma female. Your support helps keep these insights alive and brings more people into the conversation. So join the journey, engage, and let's celebrate the strength and brilliance of the Sigma female together.